Kenya plunged deeper into a political crisis on Wednesday after its Supreme Court said it could not hear a case to delay the presidential election rerun because it lacked the judges to make a quorum. Only the Supreme Court has the authority to delay Thursday's poll. Preparations for the vote have been marred by administrative confusion and a wave of protests and violence. Kenya's Chief Justice David Maraga explains.
Following the events of last night, which are in the public domain, the Honorable, the Deputy Chief Justice and the Deputy President of the court is not in a position to come to court. The Honorable Justice Ibrahim is unwell and is out of the country for treatment. The Honorable Justices Ojwang and Wanjara are not able to come to court. The Honorable Justice Njoki Ndung'u is out of Nairobi and has been able to get a flight back to Nairobi in time for the hearing of this matter. That leaves Justice Lenaola and I as the only judges present. As the two of us cannot form a quorum under Article 163(2) of the Constitution, this matter cannot therefore be heard this morning. It's accordingly adjourned to a date to be taken in the registry.
Maraga's announcement appears to clear the way for Thursday's rerun of the presidential elections to proceed. Dozens of women in white scarves marched through Nairobi Wednesday to show their support for the election. Leading up to the vote, there have been repeated clashes between police and protesters, prompting authorities to ban demonstrations in Kenya's largest cities last week. The Supreme Court threw out the results of the August 8th election because of what it called irregularities and illegalities. Opposition leader Raila Odinga, who withdrew his candidacy from the repeat poll, is calling on his supporters to protest what they perceive are ongoing problems with the Election Commission.
We have said that there will be no elections on the 26th of October. What will happen will be a jubilee, PR, and opinion poll, not an election in the Republic of Kenya. Election will be held when the conditions are ripe, are favorable for free and fair elections.
Meanwhile, Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta is assuring supporters there will be enough security at the polls to protect them while they cast their ballots. Joining us live via Skype to put all this information into perspective is Africa 54 Managing Editor Vincent Makori. Good evening, Vincent. Bring us up to speed with the latest, given there are so many new developments in Nairobi today.
Good evening, Esther. Indeed, so many things happening at a breakneck speed here in Kenya. It's even just a few hours before the scheduled poll. And now, this is what is taking place today in Kenya. You already mentioned the Supreme Court's inability to make a ruling on a case that was meant to stop the vote from taking place tomorrow. So that is very significant. What that means is the vote goes ahead as planned. In fact, the Electoral Commission Chairman, Wafula Chebukati, later on in the day said the elections will go on as planned. They have made the necessary arrangements and they've been assured of security at the polling stations. So the elections are on. But then you remember that throughout the week we've been talking about Mr. Raila Odinga, the leader of the opposition NASA coalition, was to make a very, very important announcement. He did it this evening at the Nairobi time, and he said, henceforth, the National Super Alliance transforms from a political alliance to a national resistance movement. Something extremely significant. And right now, pundits are busy trying to understand what that means, because it brings those kind of thoughts and kind of connotations of the national resistance movement in Uganda and other places. Nevertheless, he did explain that they have all intentions to undermine the government that will be formed if there's a successful government being formed after tomorrow through methods that are not militant, but would include economic boycotts and perhaps other very, very peaceful methods. And one of the very significant thing is Mr. Raila Odinga has called on his supporters not to go out in protest on polling day, but instead stay away, stay at home, pray, but deny Mr. President Uhuru Kenyatta the vote by not going to the polling station to vote.
Wow, Vincent, now has Mr. Kenyatta spoken since these new developments took place?
Mr. Kenyatta was scheduled to speak around 6 p.m. this evening Kenyan time. He hasn't. He may have started speaking as I'm talking to you now, but I haven't seen that. We expected him possibly to first call on the people of Kenya to go out in droves tomorrow and cast their votes and not to be scared of anything, because he has assured them of security. But of course, we also expected to hear how he will react to Mr. Raila Odinga's declaration. It's a declaration he made to consistently fight against this regime. And in fact, he did say that they will ensure there is another election after 90 days. So we're waiting to see.
Vincent, thank you very much for your reporting. Keep your eyes on the ground. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Sure, thank you.
Africa 54 Managing Editor Vincent Makori reporting live via Skype from Nairobi. Now, with more insight into Kenya's political crisis, I'm joined again via Skype from Nairobi by Dr. Koirr Sing'oei. Dr. Sing'oei is a legal analyst and advisor for the Intergovernmental Liaison Office in Nairobi. Dr. Koirr, a very warm welcome to you to Africa 54. Please give us some sort of legal interpretation from your standpoint on what the court's adjournment means at this point. A rerun tomorrow or no rerun, given all the uncertainty?
Thank you very much. I think first and foremost, it's important to outline that the election scheduled to hold tomorrow is being held pursuant to a decision of the Supreme Court on the 1st of September. Now, following that decision, there has been a number of political and legal developments. I think Makori has outlined the political developments, but in terms of the legal developments, as you know, the courts in Kenya have been a very important arena for contestation over this entire electoral period. And so a number of cases have been filed in court subsequent to the decision of the Supreme Court. And one of the cases that was just determined 2 days ago basically related to whether the process by which returning officers across the 290 constituencies was conducted according to the law by IEBC. And the court this morning basically found that there was a slight problem in the way in which they were appointed because political parties were not given the list of these names within the required 14 days. However, the court said that in the public interest, these officials would remain in office to conduct these specific elections.
Now, Mr.
Secondly,
Sing'oei,
there was also a case.
Mr. Sing'oei, if you can interpret for us, because the Chief Justice did say that has been adjourned. Is this something that is going to be heard again? Does that affect tomorrow's rerun?
There is nothing, legally speaking, that stands between Kenyans and their vote tomorrow. The vote will hold tomorrow. This morning, the Supreme Court was supposed to hear another case filed by 3 voters, basically, again, seeking the postponement of this vote on various grounds. However, our Constitution requires that the quorum for the Supreme Court must be 5 judges. Now, today, about 4 of the 7 judges were not present, and therefore the court did not have a quorum and could not hear this matter.
Now, very quickly,
nothing legally speaking.
Very quickly, Mr. Sing'oei, tell us your take about now NASA's leader, Raila Odinga, moving from NASA to National Resistance Movement. The legal interpretation of this, is this going to be a political party that's going to be registered? What does that mean in 30 seconds?
It's a very unfortunate development. I think it really represents an effort to go outside, Kenya's constitutional parameters, which recognizes political formations around political parties and are not nebulous, undefined, indeterminate resistance movements. And so I think if Odinga is going to pursue his aims consistent with the Constitution, I don't think it matters what he calls whatever he is doing. But the moment he arms himself in the manner in which other resistance movements have done, then he is completely outside the Constitution and would not be protected under our law and under our Constitution.
But there will be a rerun tomorrow, all said and done.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, thank you so much, Koirr Sing'oei.
Thank you.
Mr. Koirr Sing'oei is a legal advisor and head of the Intergovernmental Liaison Office in Nairobi.